voice can break the dark. A single spark ignites the heart. But if we turn when justice calls, the chains we forge will bind us all. When truth is silenced, when lies take hold, the cost is freedom, the soul grows cold. No one stands tall while another must fall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, defending every voice, defending every right. For the moment we falter, the moment we stall, we lose our own freedom when we let others fall. You can't stand free while others kneel. When justice fades, it's freedom they steal. An innocent condemned, a crime unspoken, and with it the bond of liberty is broken. No tyrant rules without our consent. Oppression thrives where silence is spent. Stand for the weak, the silence the small, or freedom will crumble for us all. We're mavericks of freedom, guardians of the light, fighting for the truth, for what is just and right. For the rights of one are the rights of all. We rise or we fall by answering the call. Even those we may oppose deserve the rights we all uphold. For if we deny them what is fair, we build our own prison in despair. The fight's not easy, it never will be, but justice for one is the key to be free. We stand as mavericks, together we strive, defending the rights that keep freedom alive. We're mavericks of freedom, rebels in the fight, upholding every truth, protecting every right. When one is oppressed, we're all in the thrall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all. So take a stand, let your courage rise. Defend the truth, don't compromise. For the soul of the world, the writing's on the wall. Freedom for one depends on freedom for all.
Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone. Great to have everybody here. I thought I knew what I was going to talk about tonight. And then people started messaging me just before the program with just different happenings out there. Some of it newsworthy, some of it just of note and concern. We're going to talk tonight, though, about Zelensky going to the UK. Trudeau's heading over there, too. After this diplomatic disaster in the White House. We'll talk about Chrystia Freeland and her bid for the leadership race and the way she's going about it, and why she, in kind of an act of desperation, has connected with Bill Maher. And we're going to talk about Wild Bill. Well, I don't know if it's Wild Bill. No, there was another guy named Wild Bill. We'll have to come up with another name for this Bill. This is Bill. We'll come up with a proper way to describe him later in the broadcast. But he phoned in to the program couple of nights ago, and I want to go back and review that call with you because it was weird, it was cryptic, and it was targeting you in my estimation. And I think there's a warning that needs to go along with that. So we'll get into all of that tonight and more. It's going to be an interesting show. Maybe we'll get to the phones, I'm not sure. It depends on how long it takes to get through the top news stories of the day, and we'll start digging into them on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching.
The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom. Literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. Where shall we start? Oh, I guess we'll start with Zelensky going over to the UK. How about that? That's where it's at right now. Okay. Yeah, that's the shot we need there. And we'll start with this. Okay. I spent hours preparing for tonight's broadcast, only to have everything kind of in my mind get stirred right up and rejigged. So that's okay. We're gonna just do this in a different fashion tonight. But it's gonna be a little clunkier because I don't have everything lined up the way I like to have it. But here's Zelensky today arriving to meet with Keir Starmer. Look at all the people.
Can anything be salvaged, President Zelensky?
President Zelensky, can you get Trump back on side?
Can this be salvaged, President Zelensky?
Can get Trump back on side?
What's your message to US President?
Is it too late for your relationship with President Trump?
President Zelensky, can you get Trump back on side?
What is your message to Donald Trump?
Is it too late, President Zelensky?
President Zelensky, how do you repair your relationship with President Trump, please?
Still negotiate with President Trump, Mr. Zelensky.
Can you be without the US, President Zelensky?
What's your message to Donald Trump, President Zelensky?
This is theater. What happened in the White House the other day was theater
Can this be
yesterday.
repaired, President Zelensky?
President Zelensky?
Also real, but absolutely, stopping, pausing, posing for photos. It's a photo op. It's all part of the game. But what's going on here is more. This is a more traditional, shall we say, approach to diplomacy and international politics, and a traditional way of dealing with media and information distribution, both direct and through actions in front of the media. What happened in the White House yesterday? I don't think anything like that has ever happened before. Not certainly in modern times. I have never seen anything like it. But make no mistake, there was theater involved in that. Genuine, yes, it was very real, but premeditated. The messaging very deliberate. But here's Zelensky with Starmer today, and we'll run this exchange first, and then we're going to go back and we're going to review a little bit of what happened yesterday in that disaster in the White House. Here's what happened over in that meeting with Starmer and Zelensky.
Let me just say that you're very, very welcome here in Downing Street. As you heard from the cheers on the street outside, you have full backing across the United Kingdom. And we stand with you, with Ukraine, for as long as it may take. And I hope you heard some of that cheering in the street. That is the people of the United Kingdom coming out to demonstrate how much they support you, how much they support Ukraine, and our absolute determination to stand with you, unwavering determination, and to achieve what we both want to achieve, which is a lasting peace for Ukraine based on sovereignty and security for Ukraine. So important for Ukraine, so important for Europe, and so important for the United Kingdom. So I'm much looking forward to our discussions here this afternoon. Thank you very much. Let me just say...
Okay, so that's what went on there. Very... What shall I say? What's the right word? That's normal. That's the normal way to do it in abnormal times. I would say anytime you're at war, that's not really, maybe that is normal for human beings. I guess it's a state of normalcy, unfortunately. It's just showing the dark side of humanity and the tragic side. And this was a war in the White House yesterday. I'm gonna say this. So there's a lot of talk out there tonight. Renewed talk, amplified talk about Canada's just a corporation, even that being extended to the United States, largely by these groups that say that Canada's just a corporation. Remember that they also say the United States is just a corporation. So why would you want to join that if it's the same thing? I'm going to submit to you tonight that the United States has been, I used the word taken over by a coup with Trump's election. And some people kind of lost their minds. It triggered some people. I stand by it, but the word coup is being used here in a way that is also not necessarily traditional. Because what I'm witnessing, and you're going to have a hard time disproving this, what I'm witnessing is a corporate coup. Yeah. If you see, because what's sitting in the White House right now is Trump Corp, essentially. That is what is going on. And everything that Donald Trump gets involved with is some sort of a transaction, a business deal. He's treating everything as a business deal. It all comes down to money. All the people around him, people with power, oligarchs. What do I mean by an oligarch? A lot of people don't know what that even means. It's really, really rich people who have been enriched and empowered by the state, essentially. Owners are people who control big companies, big corporations with tentacles that tie directly into government and the bureaucracy and the deep state. They are the deep state. Have been, always were. Trump has taken control. Trump Corp has taken control of the country. And everything he does now, he dominates. It's Trump Corp in the White House. It's a corporate coup. It was another kind of coup as well. It was an information coup. It was a political coup, a democratic coup. And I say it was a coup because the transition of power has not been normal. Normally, in our systems of government in Canada, the United States, Western democracies, when one government comes in and the other one leaves, there's a transition of power, whether it's from the Conservatives to the Liberals or the Democrats to the Republicans, or it could be, another party. It could be the Labour Party, the Greens, the NDP, whatever it could be. And that does happen, certainly in Canada at the provincial level, although in Canada we've really only had Liberal and Conservative governments elected by the people, but we do have other choices. At the provincial level, we've had other parties. But the point is, when governments change, the system remains intact. And the institutions remain intact. There may be some changes, some changes to the system, the budget changes, you might get more social programs, fewer social programs, but the Constitution as a whole generally stays the same. Again, during any administration, there might be some minor changes, but that's not what's happened with the Trump administration. They've come in and using Doge, they're purging. And it isn't just about efficiency. It's very clear that they're going after government employees based on political ideology and whether you're loyal to the current political movement, organization, Trump Corp. If you're on board, your job might be safe. If you're not on board, or if you're not in alignment with their ideology, you could be in danger of losing your job. That's the hard truth. That's the truth. And that's what they're doing. They're going through all these government agencies. But you see, in the past, if you worked at, say, the Department of Transportation, and the Democrats left and the Republicans came in, you're pretty much left alone, because who cares about what your political ideology is? It's about whether you are filling out the paperwork properly at the DOT. Right? But not so this time, because they're going through people's chat messages and emails to see what you think, not just about what you're doing on your job, and it's not just about how well you perform. It's not just a meritocracy based on work performance. It's also clearly, based on some of the firings of the past week, what you think and how you live, what kind of person you are, and whether you were, If you said if they don't like you and you send a message with a sexual overtone, you're gonzo. No doubt there's some efficiency cuts being made, but it's largely ideological, and it's in the rhetoric. You can hear it every day in the news coverage, and the politicians even openly talking about it. It's creating an atmosphere of fear. The point being that this is not normal. This is new, and it has been used, on rare occasions in the past to solidify the power and control of given regimes. The ones that come to mind most prominently, foremost, are the Soviets under Lenin and Stalin and Hitler. Oh, make no mistake, that's exactly what they did. They came in, they took power, and then through a series of steps, they purged the bureaucracy of all political opponents. It's kind of what's going on here. Now, you can say, oh, you're being bombastic. It's not like that. Oh, no, it's like that. And it is ideological. You can make your own assessment as to what kind of a political ideology is in play here. Populist, fascistic, communistic, socialistic, conservative, liberal. You can apply whatever label you want, but the bottom line is you have a whole bunch of public servants who have lost their jobs over the past month, and a lot of them are gone because of political ideology. It's just the way it is. And that's because Trump runs everything like a business. He's running the government kind of like a business, but it's not like running it just like a business for efficiency purposes. It's like everything. He's literally a corp. He's turned it into a corp. It's not, in that sense, as people are sitting there saying, the Canadian government isn't really legitimate because it's just a corporation, which is a lie. It is not just a corporation. That is a lie. But Donald Trump is just a corporation. And that's why when he sits down and talks with Zelensky the way that he did yesterday, it all just comes down to money. Just money. He doesn't he doesn't view anything in any context other than that. He doesn't apply philosophy. He doesn't really apply political ideology even, beyond the culture war aspect of it. He's just looking at Ukraine as a landmass. He looks at the United States as a landmass. It's the same thing with Canada. It's just a place, a geographic location. It's all there for the taking by whoever has the most power and therefore the most money. Let's go back to his exchange yesterday with Zelensky in the White House and J.D. Vance, and we'll play it. And you can hear it in what he's saying. And it's and that way of looking at everything is filtering through, trickling down into every aspect of government and all government institutions, and it's putting the fear of Trump Corp directly into the minds of even the most prominent, powerful politicians in America, as I will show you after this. But here we go with the exchange yesterday again.
Movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal.
A deal.
You want me to say
a deal.
Really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America. And for the good of the world, I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, you know, him either.
So why is it okay for him to... It wouldn't be okay. He's just said, like, you can't talk like that to Putin, but then he turns around and talks like that to Zelensky. That's because he didn't get a deal that he wanted before from Zelensky. Remember that phone call? The perfect phone call that actually led to his impeachment? That was because he asked Zelensky to do something that would actually have been illegal. Because he wanted Zelensky in Ukraine to go after Joe Biden and his son. And Zelensky couldn't really do it because it would have been illegal for him to do it. And Trump was actually asking him to do something that was illegal. Now, Trump said that he wasn't applying pressure, although there were people who said that he did. At the time, you know, I was of a mind that it was like, oh, it's probably not anywhere near as bad or as the Democrats are making it out to be. But when you look at what's going on between these two, that's one of the things that helps explain why this relationship is on the rocks. For Trump, it's about a deal. It's about Zelensky not coming to rescue him when he got into trouble, when he was trying to get political dirt on Biden, and Zelensky wouldn't help him because it would have been illegal for him to do it. It would have been corrupt. But for Trump, it's just about the deal and the power and the money.
So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe.
Not really.
I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to?
If he's aligned with Europe, why is he threatening to impose massive tariffs on all of Europe? Why is he, if he's aligned with the world and in Canada, why is he threatening massive tariffs up here? Why does he have an economic gun to our head? Why is he doing it to Mexico? Why is he doing it to virtually every country in the world? Except for, you know, maybe Russia, where there's talk about lifting sanctions. And just yesterday we saw that Marco Rubio took steps to stop surveillance and the sharing of certain information with Ukraine. So he's going real easy on Russia and going hard on Zelensky. And you know why? It's because Zelensky's a little guy, and Trump likes to pick on the little guys.
Be tough. I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way, so that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy.
I will say this, the one thing he actually did say that is true is Russia invaded Ukraine. Now get that through your heads, folks, because that's the truth. And he did say that. Even though in the minds of some people who are very confused, and I understand why, it's because we're being subjected to so much information warfare. But Vance got that right. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. Russia invaded Ukraine. But then he's confused, and he tells you why he's confused, because he still holds Zelensky and Ukraine responsible for Russia invading Ukraine.
We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Hang on. One moment. Here we go. Okay, so he respectfully says, can I ask you?
He occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East.
I'm going to just pull it back a bit.
Mattered more than the President of the United States' actions.
So you can hear the way he asked the question again. It's not confrontational, it's respectful.
Diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah.
He's the president of the United States. There's a war going on that the United States is directly involved in, a war that they've been providing aid to, and Trump can't even get the years straight. This is the commander-in-chief, a guy, and he's being involved in it. And then these other two guys have to even correct him on it just blows my mind.
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories.
Yeah, he knows what he's talking about because he saw some videos on TikTok. The vice president of the United States. I've actually watched the videos online, and I know what's going on over there. He's telling the guy who actually was in the negotiations, signed the documents, was involved in negotiating the previous ceasefires. He's the president of the country that's involved in the war, and of course he has his own perspective on it. But he's involved, he's right there, and he's getting a lecture from a guy who all he really knows about the conflict is what he says is it's what he's seen on TikTok videos.
And I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems?
Yeah, I know where that's coming from too, and that's a certain brand or a certain flavor, shall we say, of videos that are being put out, especially on Elon Musk's X, Twitter. Not to say that Elon is directly responsible for it, but yeah, they're coming from the other side. And he's spewing the Russian perspective on this to the guy on the other side and picking a fight with him.
Problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to
respect to
you.
your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said they should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not speaking loudly. Your country is in big trouble.
Can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of
We are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about West?
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
You invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this, I tell you.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. Okay, at that point, I get nauseous. Because this isn't just a business transaction. This is about... It's about everything, man. It's about everything. It's about people's lives, which he claims to care about, but not really. It all comes down to the dollars and the cents, the Benjamins, baby. We gave you $350 billion and we want it all back. And those deals that you made, the deals with the previous administration, that stupid president, we want all that money back. We want your minerals. We'll protect you from that Putin guy, but yeah, he's taking your country. But we'll protect you. But we want your country. We want all your resources. We'll do it. Yeah, you know he talks like a mafioso gangster. You don't have any cards. You got no cards. Now listen, it'd be terrible if something happened to your country and it happened to burn down. With us, you got some cards. And then maybe we can make a deal here. You want protection. I can get you protection. You got to be careful though, the other guy gave you some money and we want it back. And that guy's stealing your wallet and he's beating the crap out of you. I'll make him stop beating the crap out of you, but you got to give me your wallet. You want protection, right? Well, you better pay up. Better pay up. Because we got all the cards and we'll give you some cards, but you got to pay. But Mr. President, we paid with the blood of our youth to protect Europe against the aggression of Putin. You don't dictate to us. We tell you what you're gonna do. We got all the cards. We're not putting boots on the ground. We're not taking any risks. We'll give you the money up front, but we want it all back with interest. See? You pay. But we did not start the war. The Russians, as J.D. Vance told you, the Russians invaded us. No, you shouldn't have started the war. You need to stop this war. But Mr. President, they're still in our country. They're still shooting at us. You had 3 years. You should have stopped this. You shouldn't have started it to begin with. But they invaded us. Well, we'll protect you. You know what this is? This is an extortion racket. Run by a mobster, a thug, who has nukes. and a great big military. He's become the commander-in-chief. And he's taken over the White House in some sort of a bizarre, twisted, sick coup. Whether it's a corporate coup as Trump Corp, thus corporatizing an actual sovereign nation state, and then surrounding himself with what is, and this is a fact, the richest cabinet in American history. A bunch of oligarchs, including the tech giants, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Gates, all of them. The very people that a lot of people in our community are concerned about, have been concerned about, and he's got them right there front and center. And Elon Musk running the whole show, the most powerful man in the world, I would say, more powerful than Trump. Oh, yes, more powerful than even the President of the United States. And he got there for just a measly $270 million. But hey, how could that possibly be corrupt? I'm pretty sure it's not even legal, what he did. But now that he has power, what are you going to do? Antonio called in last night and was saying that, you know, his concern with the way our democracies work is that there's immunity for certain people, especially the politicians, the people in power. And he's actually quite right, because you know who's the most immune of all? Donald J. Trump, especially now that he's back in the White House. And they've given him increased immunity from prosecution on just about everything. Now that he's president, laws pretty much don't apply to him, which was one of the things that was the central question when Nixon got into trouble with Watergate. Remember his famous line, "It's not a crime when the president does it." Well, now that's true under Trump, because of the rulings that were made prior to him coming back into the office. And what is part of what he has been doing since coming back in over the past month is handing out pardons to a lot of people, some of whom I've noticed it's strange. Sex offenders, drug dealers. He's even granting a pardon to Pete Rose, posthumously. A man who is taken out of the Baseball Hall of Fame because of his indiscretions with gambling. Yeah. Not to say that Pete Rose wasn't a great baseball player, but morally, ethically, yeah, there were some problems, but Trump is pardoning him. And I don't even know why or how, but it just shows the mentality that is in play in the White House right now. And then you see what happened yesterday with this crazy, unprecedented exchange, and it was sickening. It's still sickening.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times to American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's very important. That's why I kept this going so long. You have to be thankful. You don't have the cards. You're buried there. You're people are dying. You're running low on soldiers. Listen, you're running low on soldiers. It would be a damn good thing. And then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're saying you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a ceasefire.
With guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't with me. That wasn't with me. That was with a guy named Biden who was not a smart person. That was with Obama.
It was your president.
Excuse me. That was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You got to be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
You got to be
It'll a
thankful.
tough deal to make, because
deal.
the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks...
Stop paying for life insurance that doesn't include the...
Yeah. Again, man, like it's going to be tough to make a deal. It's all about the deal. Lives don't matter. What he's saying there is the people, the Ukrainians who have paid with their lives, don't matter. They're not worth anything. He's not giving, even in the transaction, he's not providing any credit for any of that. It's not like, well, you contributed all these lives. We contributed this money. What's the deal? No, the lives are worth zero. The money is worth everything. The money means that we get your mineral rights through a deal. And as I understand it, the deal was going to end up being something like 50-50 sharing of the resources, and the Americans go in and provide investment to rebuild and then develop the lands where these rare earth minerals, like lithium, for instance, are located. And that's why the Russians are in some of those territories, is because just about a month ago, they seized territory where there are lithium mines, which is needed for the manufacture of electric car batteries. And now they're talking to China to give them access to the mining rights there, because of course China is the major player when it comes to lithium battery production for electric vehicles. Why is Russia in there? It's because of that. Is that Ukraine's fault? No. What's that got to do with NATO expansionism? Nothing. It's about Russia going after those resources. It's about Russia, and they openly talk about it now, having a different worldview of reshaping the world and absorbing more countries. And that's where Trump is at as well. He's making deals. And that's why Putin last week basically offered up a mineral rights deal from the Russian side to Trump. We'll see where that goes. And does Russia really want a ceasefire or a deal? They haven't really gone beyond that initial meeting between Rubio and Lavrov and the teams. But Lavrov came out last week and basically said that, no, we're not. They're not really interested in anything that the United States has put on the table at this point. They're not interested in a peace deal right now. And here's something else to think about with regard to this mineral rights deal. And I've had debates with people about this over and over and over again about BlackRock. Because people are being, again, lied to and led astray with these stories and explanations about, first of all, what BlackRock is, and secondly, about their activities in Ukraine. If you go back about 6 months ago, the narrative that was being spun up, maybe even longer ago than that, the narrative that was being spun up is that BlackRock had gone over to Ukraine and they bought up all the land and the mineral rights, and they were now in control of the vast majority of the land and the resources in Ukraine, and that they'd scooped all this up to exploit Ukraine, and it was very corrupt, and it was BlackRock. BlackRock went over there, and they'd taken over, and they took all the resources. That was the narrative, and I had discussions with people. I opened the phones. I was attacked. Well, let me ask you this. How can Trump make a deal with Zelensky for mineral rights that apparently BlackRock had already bought up for pennies on the dollar? Because it's not true. It was a lie. And this whole damn thing is just wrapped up in a web of lies, all designed to confuse, create chaos, undermine support for the war, and make people think the opposite of reality is what we actually are living. It's to turn everything upside down, and I think even more accurately, kind of hold a mirror up to everything so that it looks very real, but everything is in reverse. It's like Plato's shadows on the wall, where people think that the shadows are real, that story, but it's more elaborate than that. It's a much higher tech version of that, using AI and social media so that they're really presenting reality in a mirror to confuse you. So you think that you're looking at things that are accurate, but it's reversed. The BlackRock story is just one of those things. It was a multi-pronged effort to confuse you and undermine your support and your trust, even not just in government, but in your institutions and in capitalism. It was pretty brilliant, actually, the whole BlackRock narrative, especially as it relates to Ukraine. But now it's just on its face, clearly a narrative that was not accurate. They don't own it all. Trump wants it. Trump Corp. Trump Corp. Oh, what are you talking about, Rick? I thought Canada was just a corporation. No, Trump. He's a corporation. He's a brand. Trump is the brand. Trump is the corporation. Elon Musk, Tesla, that's a corporation. SpaceX, that's a corporation. He's an oligarch because his corporations survive on government contracts. Billions and billions and even trillions of dollars worth of government contracts. You think Elon Musk is going to finance the trip to the moon? No, he's going to do that with your tax dollars. Through SpaceX, the corporation. Him and his oligarch friends. They'll probably get, some of the first rides on the spaceship express to Mars. That's the corporation, folks. Right there. Well, I want to join. I'm eager to join the 51st state. We want to be the 51st state. Yeah? Yeah, Trump Corp. That's what you're joining. Trump Corp. Musk Corp. And you're going to work for those guys every day, digging out the dirt from whatever mine they want you to work for. Wherever they tell you, well, you're going to do what they tell you to do, and you're going to work for the wages that they tell you to work for, because we're going to have less regulation. We're going to be way more efficient. And they're going to bust your unions, and they are going to make you work like the people in Haiti. Oh, yes, make no mistake. Do you know how much people in Haiti make? Between $1 and $5 a day. Do you know what they do down there? One of the biggest industries is the textile industry. They make t-shirts. Yeah, those t-shirts you're wearing? Yeah, they're made in factories owned by rich American oligarchs and some Canadian oligarchs. Rich people who then use super low-priced labor, $1 to $5 a day. That's all the people there make. Sewing your t-shirts together. And then they ship them back up here. Yeah, there are different rules, different benefits for different people. And the people who run the big corps, they want to keep people in their place. Yes, they do. Is that justice? Boy, I'm sounding a lot like a lefty right now. But as much as I'm about free markets, I'm really about free markets. What Trump does is he rigs everything. Rigs everything for him and his corporate friends. That's what he's doing right now. Oh, yeah, but Rick, he's in there, he's purging and he's finding efficiencies, is he? Yeah, they're telling you what they want to tell you. And they control the system, and they can lie to you, and you wouldn't even know the difference now. We wouldn't know the difference because they can cook things up any way they want because they're in complete control. And people who have power, even people like Lindsey Graham, who's kind of a flip-flopper anyway, but you know, they're afraid to speak honestly about things. Lindsey Graham, just a week and a half ago at the Munich Security Conference, sat right next to Zelensky, pledged his undying support, saying, you know, we're there, we've been there from the beginning, we're going to be there to the end. I'm paraphrasing, but he was like unequivocal. He wanted Ukraine in NATO. And boy, he knows when the winds of political change are blowing, because then after yesterday's big blow up in the White House, he comes out and changes his tune.
All right. So, what do I think? Complete, utter disaster. I've been to Ukraine 8 or 9 times since the war started. I understand the consequences of Putin's actions against Ukraine. I appreciate what the Ukrainian people have done. They fought like tigers. At the end of the day, I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance.
Oh, yeah.
Standing up for our country.
Right.
We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful.
Oh.
And I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
Business.
I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with.
Business.
The way he handled the meeting, the way he confronted the president, was just over the top. So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
What would he need to do, sir?
It's just businessy. Just business now, even with Graham.
He was shocked. He was very upbeat. I told Zelensky, we'll talk about security guarantees. We'll talk about ceasefires and how the war ends. This is a process. You have a new relationship with America, a $500 billion, $500 billion deal that President Trump is proud of, that gives us an interest worth defending. Let's talk about the positive. But he was terrible at Munich, Zelensky.
That's not what he said in
He
Munich.
has made it almost impossible to sell to the American people that he's a good investment.
An investment. A business partner.
Hey, one at a time.
Disgusting.
One at a time. Christian Daytop. Senator Graham, thank you. Do you think President Zelensky needs to resign to resume these peace talks?
He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do
Planted
business
question.
with, or he needs to change.
Planted question. Everything now is about a business transaction. It's what's in it for me. Where's my money? Pay up. It's a protection racket. Yeah, we'll give you the cards, but you gotta pay up. You know, because it'd be a terrible thing if something were to happen around here and somebody might maybe burn your house down. You better buy some insurance. You better pay up. And something bad might happen. But I don't know if we can do business with this guy anymore because, you know, he's just disrespectful. It's that blatant. And I'm amazed at the people who are just eating this up, and it's sick because the people cheering for this are cheering for the bully beating up on a little guy. But I'll tell you this, Zelensky, he's like literally, it's like, hey, Vance, you schmuck. Why don't you pick on somebody your own size? Because that's my first instinct there. I want to defend Zelensky because he's the underdog. Vance, Vice President of the United States, and way taller, just physically, he's picking on a little guy. And yeah, the United States holds most of the cards, not all. Make no mistake, not all the cards. They may overplay their hand here. May have already overplayed their hand. Vance picking on the little guy. Trump picking on the little guy. And Trump, not man enough to fight his own battles, had to bring Rubio and Vance into the room to fight with him because he wasn't man enough to do it himself. They had to gang up on him. It was disgusting. Picking on the little guy. Godzilla and his henchmen. Appalling. And it's a racket. And he's the one rigging everything, complaining about, oh, I'm a victim. Everybody's rigging everything against me. Oh, really? Yeah, I was buying that for a while, quite a long time. But when I saw what I saw yesterday, that was a big mobster thug bully picking on a little guy whose country is under attack, has been for 11 years. Didn't just start 3 years ago, 11 years ago. And I'm watching Trump sit there. He can't even get the dates right, doesn't really know the history. His vice president is ill-informed, not prepared, doesn't really know what's going on, is getting all of his information from social media videos and says so. I've been watching videos and I know the problems you're having over there. What videos are you watching? Are they real, first of all? Or is J.D. Vance's mind infected with AI videos? Or repurposed videos? Or edited videos? There's a lot of that going on. Every day I'm sitting here and I'm wondering if what I'm seeing is even real. What's real? What isn't real? You know, we have these discussions. And that stuff is finding its way directly into the minds of the people who are in the White House tonight, making these very important decisions that affect people's lives. And there's the guy, the leader of the country that has been, continues to be under attack. His people are dying, have been dying, and they just don't want to hear it. Partly because Trump is being petty about Zelensky's inability and therefore unwillingness, his legal restrictions, which he abided by because he wasn't as corrupt as Trump wanted him to be, to go after his political opponents. And he's still in a snit over it. And that's when the relationship really started to go sour between Trump and Zelensky a long time ago. And that's what led to his first impeachment. He's still sore about that. And that's having an impact here. And you have to look at it through that lens as well. Not to mention the fact that, yes, there is something really weird going on between him and Putin. And what a crappy deal maker he is. We got all the cards and we hold all the... You just showed all your cards. You're going into these negotiations and you just sat there and told Putin that there's no way Ukraine can win. Or so you think. He hasn't asked Russia for a thing. All the concessions have to come from Zelensky. And what kind of security guarantees is Ukraine getting? Nothing. But he wants Zelensky to sign over the future of his country. The wealth of his country. That's the future for Ukraine's children. And all future generations. He wants Zelensky to sign it over in exchange for nothing. Just an assurance that, well, after you sign this deal, then we'll talk about security guarantees. That's not a guarantee of anything. As they say, that, a verbal contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. Would you sign a deal like that? well, first of all, you give me a wallet. Then we'll talk about if I have to do anything to protect you. But if that big bully guy comes back over here and if he gets a gun or something, well, then I'm out. But I still get you minerals. Or I get to take as much as I take until he beats the crap out of you again. In which case I'm gone. Because I'm not coming over here and shedding any blood for you. No blood, sweat, and tears for you, man. Like, I'll put some money up if you pay me back with interest. That's the deal. And then Lindsey Graham comes along, and he's a little weasel, and he's afraid of Trump, and he sees the way that the wind is blowing there that day, which is why he told Zelensky, don't take the bait. He's gonna, you heard him say it. I told Zelensky, don't take the bait. Yeah, because the bait was J.D. Vance provoking him on purpose. And he knew it was going to come. Lindsey Graham knew it was going to happen, and he warned Zelensky. But Zelensky, I have to say, the little guy has self-respect, and he defended the honor of his nation. That's what he was doing. And he wasn't disrespectful at all. He really wasn't. Now, a lot of people out there want to hate on him because there's been so much information warfare just directed at people, just designed to make us all hate Zelensky. I, in the beginning, was buying into a lot of that too. But I dig into this stuff every single day. And as I peel the layers of the onion back, what have I found? Trump Corp. Ultimately here in the end. And even before that with Biden. Give him enough arms to not lose, but not enough to win. Yeah, there's a money train there for sure. But you know who's paying? As much as there's corruption, I care about the people and I care about freedom. Every country has some level of corruption, and they're going to find some corruption. It's absolutely out there, no question about it. There's corruption going on every government around the world right now to varying degrees. There's an index on how much corruption there is in any given country, and you can find it at all levels of government. That doesn't mean that the people shouldn't be defended. It doesn't mean that Ukraine as a nation doesn't have the right to exist. It doesn't mean that Ukraine is an illegitimate country. Ukraine is a real place. It is a real country, in spite of what Vladimir Putin says, in spite of whatever documents he has cooked up to rewrite or revise history and hands over to Tucker Carlson, who didn't even really check the historical revisions that Vladimir Putin engaged in order to justify his invasion. The bottom line is Ukraine is a sovereign nation. It really does exist. Russia has even acknowledged it in the past, prior to Putin coming into power. And he decided that he was just not going to honor the borders anymore, so he invaded. For a variety of reasons, and NATO expansionism was not the primary reason. That's the Russian narrative. And that's what was being spewed in the White House yesterday by the president of Trump Corp and his henchmen. And his little servants, the littlest one, Marco Rubio, who is the biggest disappointment of them all, in my view. The one guy who has the smarts out of all that whole group to bring some sense into the room and act like an adult. And he's the guy who sat there like, you could tell he was like uncomfortable. He was just completely disgusted with what was going on. But then in the end, he ends up over on, I think it was CNN. And let me see if I can find you the clip here. Shouldn't be too hard to find it. He ends up over, I'm pretty sure it was CNN. Here's the exchange. He ends up over on CNN. You can tell that in the meeting, he doesn't like what's going on. It's not the first time he's had that expression in these meetings with Trump and Vance. But then he goes over here and does this and throws Zelensky under the bus.
Vice President Vance was criticizing Zelensky for not saying thank you specifically during that meeting, those 40 to 50 minutes that we were in the Oval Office. But certainly, you know very well, Secretary Rubio, your time as a senator here in Washington, that whenever Zelensky has come to Washington before, he has very much expressed that kind of gratitude. Just listen to this.
Thank you for both financial packages you have already provided us. Really, all my appreciations from my heart, from the heart of Ukrainians, all Ukrainians. So what can I say to American people in English? My English is poor to say all my messages and all my thanks to you. And thank you very much for supporting us, our people.
Thank you, United States. Thank you, America.
Ukraine is grateful to the United States for its overwhelming support.
Do you think you can make the argument that he hasn't said thank you?
Well, I think the vice president said he hadn't said it today. He hadn't heard it today in that meeting, and we were hoping that that meeting would begin by thank you for everything you've done for us. We wouldn't be where we are today without you. We wouldn't even have a chance to negotiate a peace without the help you gave us. By the way, without the help you gave us when you were president in the first term, because President Obama refused to provide them defensive capabilities in terms of...
Yeah. So he throws Zelensky under the bus. But everything is a transaction. Everything's a deal. It's all about the money. Not, did you hear, like, Trump says, oh, I got to stop the killing. Yeah, but he didn't really, the way he says it, he doesn't come out and say, your people have paid the ultimate sacrifice. You have made the ultimate sacrifice. Somewhere between, like, maybe even 500,000 Ukrainians have died in this conflict. But for Trump, it's about the money. And that's the case in Gaza, too, where this twisted, sick perspective on the world is on full display in this AI video, Trump Gaza. I ran it the other night. I'll run it again here. A lot of people have died in Gaza. It's been this just ongoing tragedy for many decades since World War II. And then he comes along and says the United States is going to own it. And he's going to turn it into a resort. And it makes me want to puke when I hear that. Excuse me for being so crude, but there's nothing in good taste about any of this. And this is supposed to be some sort of a meme. But given the depth of the tragedy over there and the horror, there's nothing funny about it. But when you're just the big thug, the big bully, the big mobster running Trump Corp from the White House with your oligarch friends, and you're busy making deals and carving up the whole world, and that's not an understatement, then I guess you just don't have a heart and can't see that what this is just simply inappropriate. So you put it on Truth Social to give everybody a good laugh and something to think about, because it's really what he wants.
No more fear. Trump Gaza is finally here. Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done.
Money, money, money.
Trump Gaza shining bright. Golden future, a brand new light. Feast and dance, the deal is done. Trump Gaza, #1.
I'd laugh if it was funny, but it really isn't funny. I'm just flabbergasted. What the hell is that? It's just in bad taste. It's gross. It's decadent. Completely insensitive. And it shows that he cannot relate to regular, ordinary people. He's just the head of Trump Corp. A big business that doesn't even, in my view, produce as much as people think that it is. It's a brand. It's a show. He's a show. He's a celebrity. He sells his name. He puts his name on things. It's all about branding, marketing, and money. And what other fake things has he done? Trump non-fungible token trading cards, which aren't even real trading cards. They're digital online trading cards. And then he's got a cryptocurrency that he was selling, and there was a big pump and dump on that, which was, essentially unethical in my view, and certainly not the kind of thing that the President of the United States should be involved with. Again, it's all about the money. And I didn't want to believe this stuff because I was, especially during the leading into the first Trump administration and even during, I was like, yeah, I want more fiscal conservatism. I'm all about a more conservative approach to government, less government, less regulation. That's what I'm about. And so I was, pretty optimistic about everything and supportive even in many of the things that I said when he was doing things that I liked. But this has changed. This has morphed. This has become twisted and sick. And I guess the warning signs were there before, but they masked over a lot of this stuff, even during this campaign. The one caller last night, Trevor, I think his name was. Anyway, from the U.S. saying, "Oh, you guys, you should have seen this coming. You have no excuse. You knew," and it's true on one level. Yeah, Trump was telling us what he was going to do, and most people were like, "Oh, he'll never go that far," and I was kind of in that boat, but he was saying it, and the reason I wasn't always buying it was because it was like, in my view at the time, especially in this particular last campaign, I was watching him say these crazy things, and I thought he's just saying that to appease certain elements of the political of certain political pockets, right? And then when you went to the Republican convention, as much as he was talking about deportations, they talked a lot about inclusivity and an America for everyone and that kind of talk. And I thought, well, yeah, that's really probably more where Trump is going to land on this stuff. He talks, in sort of hardline terms when he's on the campaign trail, but here tonight it's much more nuanced. It's softer. That's likely where we're going to end up once we get all the people in positions of power in his administration. But no, that's not what's going on. This time it's different. The purge is happening, and he's moving at lightning speed, and people's rights are being violated, and laws are being ignored, and where court challenges to his executive orders are coming online, he's just writing more executive orders to flood the system so that they can't touch him and that they can't stop his movement. And that in itself is alarming. It should be of extreme concern to everyone. When I talk about the purge, you have to think back to even, not like, I'm sorry, but it's something that we absolutely should be looking at. How did Hitler consolidate power after overcoming all political odds, even being thrown in jail at one point, and then coming out and recovering politically, and then seizing power through a democratic process, only to then circumvent democracy and do away with it? It was a step-by-step process that involved the Reichstag fire as sort of a false flag, to use that for justification for the suspension of rights, the Enabling Act in 1933 that came along after that as part of the Reichstag fire, allowing him to use dictatorial powers and install those powers as sort of temporary, but then making them permanent after eliminating his opposition. You had the Night of the Long Knives that came the next year, and then the consolidation of absolute power in 1934. And he, of course, had that Enabling Act in place, allowing him to bypass checks and balances, and then use the military, the Gestapo, the SS to crush dissent. And I hate to even bring up the Nazis when I talk about modern politics, because it's just used too often and applied to too many people, and it loses its impact, its importance. It waters it down too much. But what I'm seeing going on right now, I can't find any other modern day parallels to this in any other Western country, and I'm finding it alarming. I'm also alarmed by this movement that is underway to get Trump a third term. I've got, right here, I'll show you. There's a political project underway. It is the Third Term Project. And this was at CPAC. This isn't from today, but I'm going to run you this video that the people involved in the movement made, just an address online, and explains what they're trying to do. And you may agree or disagree with this, but I find it concerning just because they want to change the Constitution in order to give Trump more time in office. And this is something the people have been saying was going to happen with Trump, and I was like, no, he's not going to do that. He won't go that far. He'll get his other... No, I can't. That's not going to happen. Oh, yeah, here they go.
I am Shane Trejo. I am the campaign lead for the Third Term Project. So our stated goal is to ensure that President Trump can get the third term that we believe the public demands that he receive. Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee has introduced a constitutional amendment that would amend the Constitution to allow President Trump to get a third term. Mark Avagno, a legal expert, will be explaining kind of the basis of how that works after I give my brief statement today. But we believe that the public needs a third term from President Trump. What he's doing already at warp speed with Doge and with making the government more efficient, going to battle with the bureaucracy, the permanent bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. That has lorded over us and strangled the economy for so long. This has been such a scourge for the American people. Trump is going to battle with them, and he's making incredible strides. But the forces of evil that he's going to war against are not going to go away. They might be dormant for a while, but they're going to be waiting to get right back in there as soon as President Trump is out of office. So we believe that with a third term, he'll be able to remake the government. He'll be able to take a wrecking ball to the bureaucracy, to the different, to the networks that operate behind the bureaucracy, and for generations to come, it will make the necessary change. Stop the deep state, stop the institutional bureaucracy, stop the administrative state, and restore freedom to the people. So that's the idea here that we're pushing with the Third Term Project. Go to thirdtermproject.com for more information. And I'm just going to have Mark Avagno, our legal expert, talk a little bit about the basis behind it, and before we take some questions from the media. So, Mark, go right ahead.
Thank you, Shane. So a lot of people, especially in the modern mind frame, think, well, presidents should only have 2 terms, right? That's how it's always been. Well, the truth of the matter of fact is that it's not always been like that. Franklin D. Roosevelt served 4 terms as president, and then we got this 22nd Amendment. That was the impetus for it. And so we are not asking for a huge modification, actually. We've got a lot of criticism. Well, what if we allow Joe Biden to run again? Well, I don't know if he can even tie his shoes, so that's not going to happen. But what about Obama? Obama could run again. Well, what we're asking for is a modification to the 22nd Amendment, which would be that a president can serve 2 consecutive terms and no more. So in President Trump's case, he served one term. The second term was interrupted, and now he has another term, and so he should be allowed to effectuate his agenda with the second term. A lot of presidents, usually when they win once, they win again. And so we're not even saying that President Trump will be president again. So if he does run in 2028, it could be that he does not elect him. We're just saying that he should have the opportunity to be elected. And so there's certainly legal precedent for it. We're going to have to get at least 2/3 majority vote in the House and in the Senate, but that's certainly possible. And it's not unprecedented that a president would run 3 terms or even 4 terms. We're just saying a third term would be ideal. And a lot of the left says they support democracy. This would be part of democracy, right? So we're just giving opportunity. If people don't vote for President Trump in 2028, so be it. But we want him to have the opportunity to run again, to continue making America great.
Because what I've been seeing is, and hearing, is a lot of people who feel threatened who, especially people calling for deportations, they've just lost faith in democracy. They no longer think there's a political solution. It concerns me, and it runs at the very heart of the anti-government movement that is out there, the distrust that people now have for everything. And as much as everybody needs to look at things critically, you need to look at everything critically, everything, and take a balanced perspective on things. The problem is people are kind of being duped, lied to by people who are telling you, don't listen to that other guy, he's lying to you. So then you're listening to the other people who are lying to you. Zelensky being told by the head of NATO that he needs to find a way to repair his relationship with Trump. Here's this post on social media, and Mario Knopfel saying, in an interesting turn of events, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte just urged Zelensky to mend ties with Trump and the U.S., emphasizing the importance of strong relations. The news comes despite the fact many heads of state of European members of NATO defended Zelensky after Trump's exchange with him yesterday. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, you have to find a way, dear Volodymyr, to restore your relationship with Donald Trump and the American administration. And I totally understand where he's going with that. I don't know that that's possible, because what I witnessed in the White House yesterday indicates to me that it's Trump that really doesn't want to help Zelensky. And the relationship was damaged long before that. And Trump doesn't care about Ukraine. Vance hates Ukraine. Trump, I think, hates Ukraine. And he just doesn't really want to have to deal with it. He just wants to give it away. But if he can get mineral rights or whatever, then that's a good deal for him. But he doesn't care about the people. He doesn't care about the country. He doesn't care about the sovereignty. But he should, because it is all about everything. And the people who are like, that's a faraway war. It doesn't have anything to do with Canada. Well, it certainly damn well does. As you are seeing just in the past day, yesterday was a pivotal moment in world history, because you saw a realignment take place, largely, where it appears the United States is now more aligned with Russia and China than it is with Europe or with Canada. And that's where the 51st state talk comes back into play. That's where all these tariffs come into play. Are you beginning to get the picture? I've been telling people for over 2 years that Canada is in play. You just couldn't really tell who it was that was behind it. And the masks are coming off, literally, figuratively, metaphorically, in all ways. The masks were on during the pandemic. Couldn't really tell who the players were. Then the masks have been coming off since then. And I mean now the masks hiding true intentions, true objectives, and the true political colors of people and the traitors and the liars. Going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to dig into a phone call that came into this program a couple of nights ago. It sounded like gibberish, but it wasn't. We'll dig into it on the other side. It's mind-warping stuff, but we need to look at it.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Hang on, I just need one more moment, but just a reminder that if you want to support the program, you can do that by donating at freedomreporters.com. Oh, hang on a second here. freedomreporters.com. Or you can also donate at using e-transfer at rw581@aol.com. If you do that, please apply the security answer Maverick, all in lowercase, so that we can deposit that and apply the proper accounting. The bank requires that you complete the security question because it does go into a business account for proper accounting and taxation purposes. And I am so humbled and so grateful for the support that has come in the last few days, support that was really desperately needed. And yeah, it's the end of the month, and we're trying to pay well, it's the beginning of the month now. So yeah, we do have a lot of bills to pay in order to keep this program on the internet and on the air. So thank you so much. The last donation that came in, and you know who you are out there, and I have to send a thank you message out. Came in, help more than you know. Thank you. It's not easy doing this independent journalism thing. Not complaining, just saying I'm very grateful and appreciative of your help because we've got a lot of work still to do. And that work will continue right after this.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay. I'm back, and so are you. And if you are here, you're probably someone who questions the narrative, right? Digs for the truth and doesn't just swallow what the mainstream media feeds you. So that's why you're my kind of people. You're Mavericks. But tonight I've got something serious to unpack, something that hit us right here on the show, and it's got me worried about what's really going on out there. Canada's just a corporation. We're in an information war, folks, and it's targeting Canada, our home, our sovereignty, our minds. And I think one of our recent callers who used the name Bill about 2 nights ago gave us a front row seat to how it's playing out, at least in part. Let's talk about Bill, shall we? He called into our live stream the other night. You heard, and I transcribed this thing so I could really study it. It was the weirdest phone call that we've had in a while, but I'm pretty sure he called in once before. And this guy comes on, starts ranting about forks changing their essence from Tuesday to Wednesday, stairs appearing out of nowhere, and some hidden C and D the government's supposedly keeping from us. It's wild, right? Sounds like he's just messing with us, or maybe he's off his rocker. But here's the thing. I don't think it's random. I think Bill was deliberate. It's not the first time he's called here. The last time he strung together a bunch of economic buzzwords on a night when I was talking economics. And what he was presenting was total gibberish. He was using real economic terms, but they were being strung together in ways that didn't make any sense because they just didn't make any sense. And when I pushed back, he told me I needed to learn economics before opening my mouth. Pretty disrespectfully, I must say. Me? Well, I studied economics at the University of Western Ontario. But this latest call, it's next level, folks. It's this call that came in, like the first one on economics, and this next call, this one that came in 2 nights ago, it's not just nonsense. Bill has a skill. He knows how to, he's a wordsmith. And he uses this skill in a mind game. And I think it's aimed directly at you. I've said for a long time that bad actors, a lot of bad actors want access to this platform because they want access to you, because you matter. What you think, what you do matters, especially now. As the future of our country is on the line, just as Ukraine's is, just as all small nations are facing an existential threat, as these great powers look to expand. Now, yeah, so why does this matter? Because we're seeing something bigger here. Bill's call wasn't just a prank, it's a tactic. It's about sowing confusion, making you question reality itself. I'm gonna run the clip. Because in this clip, he's throwing out riddles about perception, momentum versus intent, and some shadowy misdirection by they. Classic head-spinning stuff. And who's the audience? As I said, it's you guys, skeptics, truth seekers, people who already distrust the system. And he's exploiting that here, trying to push you even further past healthy skepticism into a fog where nothing's real, not even the ground under your feet. And when I say ground, I mean Canada, our country, because right now there's a narrative out there on X, in fringe chats, even creeping into our mainstream noise, right here into our community, that Canada isn't a real country, that we're not sovereign, that we're just a puppet state, or worse, a territory waiting to be swallowed up, that we're free to leave the Canadian experience and become the 51st state, which is what some people really, really want. But we need to really take a closer look at this, and we're going to start by taking a real closer look now at Bill's phone call. Mr. Bill. Oh no! It's Mr. Bill! Do you remember the Mr. Bill show from Saturday Night Live? Bill Murray, the Mr. Bill show? Well, it was the Mr. Bill show the other night right here on Maverick News. Let's unpack this. Here we go. I've got you now. All right, let's start from the beginning. Yeah, what do you want to talk about tonight, Bill? Now that your audio is actually flowing through the system. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, the average person sees this and that, and they think, well, that defies logic, but only because they're still looking at it with sort of a linear perception. The real question is, when did the stairs even get there?
Okay.
That's the problem with discourse today. We're stuck in this, I guess, this physicality of scares when the real issue is momentum versus intent. Like, if you drop a fork on a Tuesday, is it still a fork on Wednesday, or has it fundamentally changed because it's now a fork with history?
Mm-hmm.
The more you realize it, because when you factor in, I guess, the oscillation of expectation, everything starts making sense in reverse. That's why people say, oh, it's just about A or B. They forget about C, which was there the whole time, hiding in the folds of perception. And honestly, the government knows this, but they don't want people asking, what about D?
Right. I think you've called in before, haven't you? On one occasion?
No.
No?
No, the thing is, it was never about D. That's what they want you to focus on. It's classic misdirection. While we're out here arguing about cause and effect, they're out there shifting the paradigm of the observable into the subliminal. And once that happens, well, let's just say you don't want to be holding a spoon when the music stops.
Well, or trying to get a seat on that last chair when you're playing musical chairs. Next thing you know, you're on the floor.
Yeah. Answer me this. If you had to choose between knowing the truth and understanding the truth, which one would you pick?
I would only say what is truth, because it's really subjective in a non-linear sort of fashion, right?
Well, I mean, I guess that means you've already chosen not to know. Anyway, stay vigilant. You'll notice the patterns soon.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll notice the patterns soon. Stay vigilant. What the hell was that about? It's just, it would have just been, the instinct is just dismiss that. But no, when you listen to it, there's actual depth to it, and it has coherence. He's actually challenging your perception of reality. He's challenging your reality. It's no accident that he's calling in here. He sees you guys as a vulnerable group of people, open to suggestion, manipulation. And what he's doing there is he's playing a mind game with you. Yeah, he's fanning these flames. He's fanning those flames of doubt, distrust. You already don't trust government. You don't trust the institutions. And Trump's out there, straight up threatening to annex Canada, saying we'd be better off as the 51st state. And what did I run the night before? I ran the whole expose on the good general from the United States and his merry band of sovereign citizen, anti-government activists who masquerade as freedom fighters, who went to Ottawa and continue to try to go to Ottawa to overthrow the government, or at the very least create chaos in the system. And really their ultimate goal is to undermine trust, confidence in government, and make people believe that Canada is not a real place. They are the traitors. Not just traitors to the country, but they betray you. Bill's not joking around. He's talking about things that just skew your sense of reality. General Vallely said to me that the key to everything is to convince Canadians that their country isn't a real thing. That's what he said to me the night that I interviewed him. And his objective, of course, is to replace the government up here, which is entirely inappropriate. He has no business sticking his nose in up here, but there it is, a U.S. general directing, advising, being involved directly with freedom groups. It's painful for me to even sit here and talk about it, but the reality is that's all going on. Bill's call comes in at this, it's no accident. People are in the chat challenging this program all the time, really trying to tear it down and destroy it because I'm bringing you this kind of information. Government doesn't like me talking about it. They don't want me even drawing attention to it. The people perpetrating it, they don't want me talking about it. And all of this comes straight back, smack dab in the middle of the whole 51st state Trump assault. And Trump's out there straight up threatening to annex Canada, saying we'd be better off as the 51st state. He's not joking. Check his posts, his interviews. He's talking economic force, maybe more, to dissolve that, as in his words, artificially drawn line between the United States and us. Sound familiar? It should. Rewind to the early 2000s. Russia started doing the exact same thing to Ukraine. Information warfare, flooding airwaves, the internet with propaganda that Ukraine isn't a real nation, that it's just little Russia, that its sovereignty was a myth. They confused people, eroded trust in their government, their media, their identity. They continue to do it today. Kevin did it on the program last night. Either wittingly or unwittingly, you can decide. A friend of mine, he does what he does, says what he says. Free speech. Talking about how there's a Russian identity in Ukraine. A grain of truth wrapped around other information with that. But it's softened people up in the early 2000s. This information campaign has softened them up for the tanks. For the civil war that Russia facilitated by sending in arms and armed Russian soldiers without insignias to ramp up a civil war, create the conditions for a civil war, and actually become engaged in and participate in that civil war, saying, oh no, we don't have any soldiers in there. Well, clearly they did, and we've shown you the proof that they did, and they've admitted that they did. It's all confirmed. And the Ukrainian government pushed back against that. Of course they did. Only to then be blamed for starting it all and causing it all and bombing their own people, when in reality they were responding to an insurrection, an affront to the government, to overthrow the government in Ukraine. And you think that things going on here in Canada aren't similar? Especially right now, tonight? Now Putin's still at it, claiming Ukrainians secretly want to be Russian. And let's look at Bill's call again, shall we? It's the same playbook. Challenge reality. Make you doubt what's solid. Prep the ground for something bigger. That's how it works now. This isn't just the old style propaganda of dropping leaflets on an enemy. This is a mind war, an info war. Alex Jones tells you about it, and then he subjects you to it. He tells you what he's going to do, and then he does it to you. And the other side does it to you too. But what's going on right now is a full-on assault on your minds. All of our minds. So what's the end game? Why target us? Simple. If you can't trust your own eyes, your own country, your own institutions, government, media, police, doctors, whatever. And how many people do you know that refuse to even go to the doctor now? Because they're afraid that something bad will happen to them. They don't want to call the police because they're afraid of police who are supposed to be out there to protect us. Then you're disarmed. There's a level of perspective that we have to maintain on these things, but it's so difficult when people's minds are being subjected to fear porn 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, for years on end now, especially since the pandemic. You're vulnerable. Bill's not just one guy. He's a symptom of a flood of voices out there telling you Canada's a mirage, that it's all fake, that the people keeping it running can't be trusted. And When you're drowning in that doubt, it's easier to let it all go, to let someone else step in and take over. Maybe it's Trump with his annexation talk. Maybe it's something more authoritarian waiting in the wings. They don't really tell you what it is they're going to do. They just want you to hate what you've got and not trust it and believe that it isn't real. But the result's the same. Our country dissolves and we're left with nothing to fight for. And do you know who uses those tactics? Communists, fascists, or in this case, I suspect it's a group of new people who have adopted this new ideology. They're involved in convergence, bringing communism and fascism together and cloaking it so that you don't see it, you don't recognize it. And because it's coming from the United States south of the border, you don't feel it's really a threat, because why would the United States ever do anything to hurt Canada? We're the greatest of friends, allies. But it's not situation normal. So here's where you come in. You're the ones who see through the lies, right? Even the Q folks, the conspiracy crowd, you've got the instincts to spot this stuff, but don't let it turn on you. Bill's call was a test. Don't fail the test by getting lost in the fog. Some people already have. They've gone a little too far down the rabbit hole, and it's just a little too dark down there. They need a little light. Maybe we can help them. Question everything, sure, but don't let them, these people, peppering you with lies from any side, and it's not, it's people who are telling you that don't listen to them because everything they tell you is a lie. As soon as they say something like that, you really got to question that person. Question everything. Don't let them weaponize that against you. Canada's real. It's worth defending. Trump's threats are real too, and so is the info war hitting us. Russia pulled this on Ukraine, and it led to bombs and blood. We're not there quite yet, but man, we are in the crosshairs. So stay vigilant, like Bill said at the end, but not for his pattern. Watch for theirs, watch for his. It comes in a variety of forms from different people, some of whom I think we have learned to trust, maybe even as alternative sources of information, and lend a lot of credibility to them. But they have been Decepticons, deceiving us. The masks are coming off. They're the ones trying to break us apart from the inside, and they have been for quite some time. We are Mavericks. And we're not here to just, and I'm not here to just sit and spoon feed you the establishment line. Nor am I here to let other people just straight up lie to you either. And I will not allow a free speech attitude, perspective, platform to be exploited in the name of free speech by people who engage in malicious speech, which is to say lies, and say, well, I'm entitled to my free speech, and I'm going to tell this lie. And I'm not going to tell people it's a lie. I'm going to pretend that it's real. That's not free speech. That's a psychological assault designed to manipulate, distort, influence you politically. And even kinetically, possibly, at some point, where sometime in the very near future, some people may ask you to rise up. And I would encourage you to then take a very, very close look at what is going on. We're here to cut through all that noise, all that crap. Bill's call was a wake-up call. Don't sleep on it. Keep your eyes open, your mind sharp. Don't get lost in the fog. Don't get so far down the rabbit hole that it's so dark you're blinded by the lack of light. Let's hold the line together. I'll be looking in the chat. Share your thoughts in there. If not now, then after the program, I'll be looking. Tell me what you think of what Bill was saying. What was he really up to in there? Was he just crazy? Was he a crackpot? Was it all gibberish? I would say as complex as everything that he was saying sounded, and while it was rooted in some philosophy and asked some very metaphysical questions, at the end of the day, his objective was quite simple. Confuse you, undermine your trust, make you question everything you think you know. It was just one shot fired in an ever-escalating information war. We'll have conversations about this. There's more to come. Don't go away.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so just a couple of things here. Still on, just very briefly go back to what is going on with Zelensky. Trudeau's gone over to the UK as well, and of course his involvement won't continue much longer because we've got the leadership convention happening. That's the other thing. The people trying to tear the country down right now, they keep bringing up this, oh, the party's picking your next prime minister and the people have no say, la, 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 la. I'm hearing a lot of that stuff coming out of the U.S., but the system is sound. And here's Zelensky meeting with the king today. And I show you this image. It's important because it shows us that we're being presented here with options in Canada. Whether people realize it at this point or not, most people are not likely still paying close enough attention. All they're thinking about is the tariffs. But the reality is we're being presented with a couple of paths forward. One is to be absorbed by the United States, a country that I would say is being transformed into something different than what the United States has been through MAGA and Trump. You're not going to recognize this government by the end of the year. And the other path is to align more with Europe. And a third option, I guess, would be to, I don't know, align more with Asia, or I don't know. But because of our geographic position, we're in a pretty tough spot if this new vision of the world, this new world order, takes hold and it's carved up into hemispheres of dominance by the great powers, China, Russia, the United States. Yesterday was a pivotal moment. By rejecting Zelensky and kicking him out of the White House, it was a signal that we are on the path to this new world order, this new reality where small countries don't matter, that they're going to be absorbed by large countries. It's the end of liberal democracies, the beginning of the end. It's the fall of Western society. It's the U.S. equivalent of the fall of the Soviet Union, the destruction of the economy. It's a great reset, or the beginning of, if it plays out. The question is, how compromised is Donald Trump, or how involved or in the plan is he? The plan. There it is. Those two words, the plan. Now it's going mainstream because people are being presented with a new reality that's beginning to make sense. The dots are connecting. And that meeting between Zelensky and the king shows that, yes, Ukraine has the support of Europe. They want to be part of Europe, and that will be the struggle. Will they be allowed to exist as a country, as a nation state, with the support of other European countries? Or will they be absorbed into a greater landmass by Russia as they expand and realize their new imperialistic ambitions? And while we're told one side is a bunch of globalists, the irony in all of that is that it's the people on that side who are presenting us with the options of a preservation of liberal democratic principles, or a world with international rules that apply to all countries, but it's also the preservation of nation states and an adherence to rights for individuals, because that is what classical liberalism is all about. Individual rights and freedoms. And yet, strangely, people on the conservative side who hold those values dear are also in alignment with this anti-liberal stance and view of the world, which is to say that nation states eventually will be dissolved. It's an internal struggle because it's a populist movement. It's very dysfunctional, and I don't know if this will actually survive long enough to come to fruition. I'm probably confusing people now, because when I'm listening to myself, I think that I'm not simplifying it enough or being clear enough to have people understand where I'm going with it. So I'm going to kind of like break off from this part of my talk tonight because you've got the idea, right? I think we're cluing in. Enough information is being shown to us now so we can understand where we've been and where we're going, and it's very clear now that we're going to be presented with some options, and these options will be forced upon us. We'll be forced to make a choice, and as that choice is made, there's a real possibility of conflict. Serious conflict, because that's how those kinds of things pop off. But we do have an election coming up, and the election itself may prove to be the catalyst for all of this in Canada. And before we get to that, we have the Liberal Leadership Convention, which is going to be held in the very near future. Chrystia Freeland was I think she's desperate because she's running out of time, and she's just a little bit behind her main opponent, Mark Carney. And she's high profile, so she went down there last night into the US of A and took swings at Pierre Poilievre and Justin Trudeau as well, while making her pitch to be Canada's next Prime Minister on Real Time with Bill Maher. She told Maher that Canadians are looking for a Prime Minister who can stand up to Trump, and that she'll fight for Canada and win. Yeah. Some things that Pierre Poilievre has been saying too make me scratch my head. You know, like after Canada won the Four Nations hockey tournament, he used a word in his social media post to congratulate the team and celebrate. I can't remember what the full post was, but the last word that he used was golden. Golden. And I thought, well, that is bizarre. Maybe not bizarre, maybe intentional. Golden, because it's the golden era of the United States, according to Trump, that is just coming in. And then he's selling gold cards that allow people to go into the United States as citizens for $5 million. Isn't that interesting? Everything's a deal with Trump. Selling gold cards for $5 million. Pierre Poilievre uses the word golden. And we've got this movement out there tonight that's really picking up steam, trying to convince people that Canada isn't a real place, but we apparently as individuals have rights to all of the wealth of the nation. And if we want to join the 51st state, why do I get the feeling that Trump's going to come along and say, hey, you know what, Canadians? We'll make you all citizens, but it's such a good deal. It's only going to cost you $5 million apiece. But hey, you know what, Canadians? We love you guys so much. And we recognize that you as individual sovereign citizens have the rights to all the resources in your individual provinces like Alberta. We'll waive the $5 million fee in exchange for your resources. You can all be citizens of the U.S. of A. All you gotta do is give us your resources, your oil and your minerals. And we'll let you in with a golden ticket, a gold card to join the new golden era of America. And all it will cost you is your country, your sovereignty, your future. You'll just be tied to the hip with us. Now, I can't say for sure that that's where it's going, but tonight, those are the dots that are out there to be connected, and whether they connect directly or indirectly, there's something afoot. And the opposite of that, at least one of the opposites, because I think we may be presented with a third option, maybe even a fourth, before this fully plays out. We have Chrystia Freeland on Bill Maher. She also, in the leadership debate the other night, was straight up with people. She said, we need a new world order. And initially my reaction was, oh my God, who's your campaign manager? Why would you use that language? That is not smart. That's just inflammatory. That's going to worry a lot of people, scare a lot of people. Not cool. But she did it. And it was intentional, because she actually wants to fight the next election on that issue. She knows it's out there. She knows Trump wants us to fight on that issue, and she's not afraid of it. She's at least being honest in that way. Here she is on Bill Maher. Let's run the clip.
I saw recently, I think it was last week, Ottawa, I see, is trying to pass a law limiting the amount of time you can idle your car. Now, I've been in Canada in the winter. It's pretty fucking cold out there.
That's why we used to have snowbirds before we decided we didn't want to spend our money in the United States.
But and I don't think this, I mean, the reasoning is it's going to put a dent in global warming. I don't think it is. That you can only idle your car for a minute, I think remotely, in 3 minutes if you're in it, before you can get going. I'd say warm it up. This just pisses people off. And it looks like, as in America, they still haven't gotten the memo that this shit don't work. So you're against that kind of stuff, right?
Look, Bill, I have got the menu. I have received the memo, to be a polite Canadian. I have received the memo, sir.
Yes.
And, politicians win when they listen to people sincerely and hear what people are saying to them about their lives. And politicians lose when we think we are smarter than the people we work for. And when we think our job is to lecture people. That's not how democracy works.
People don't like bossy and they don't like snobs.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm always trying to tell the left. Okay.
Although...
And she also has been talking about this 4-year-old girl. Ari, I think, was the girl's name. And so this is part of her campaign pitch. I'll run this one too. And here we go.
Is saying repeatedly that he wants to use economic coercion to force us to become the 51st state.
I mean, do you take it seriously or do you think it's just trolling?
No, I take it seriously, and Canadians do too. I am in full campaign mode. And so a couple of weeks ago, I was in a small city called Saskatoon. And a little 4-year-old girl came up to me with her mother. Her name was Ari. And she said to me in the serious way a little 4-year-old can you stop Trump from invading Canada? So right now, we are a country where 4-year-old children are saying, how do we stop this guy from invading my country? Is saying repeated.
So the thing here is that the people who want to destroy the whole country want to frame the fight around that. Frame the whole question of whether Canada should survive as a country around these political issues that are front and center during like this leadership campaign, or the issues that will be present during the next federal election. Ideological issues, culture war issues. But the thing to remember is that those are not really the issues that we should be deciding whether the country remains together should be decided on. The reason is the question about Canada as a country is bigger than the political parties themselves. It's really about us as people. It's not about whether you're a liberal or a New Democrat or a conservative or a communist or anything else. It's about whether Canada should exist as the greater sum of its parts, which is us, the people. And are we distinct enough? Are we unique enough? Are we strong enough to survive as a nation state? I think we are. All of those things. But if we allow the people who want to tear us down to convince us that it isn't real, to convince us that we're not resilient enough to survive as a nation, to convince us that we're illegitimate, to convince us that our history doesn't matter, to convince us that our history is corrupt or immoral, or that our history itself is some sort of a lie, that we don't have sovereignty when we do, then we're in a lot of trouble. If we also allow them to litigate or campaign, run a campaign to dissolve the country based on the culture issues, the political issues like taxation, the level of taxation that we're currently at, which can change. If we allow them to fight just on those issues without looking at the greater sum of things, what is Canada really about? It's an idea, an ideal. It's about rights. That's the other thing. Like the psychological warfare is such that, when the government has made mistakes, locking us down, it undermines our trust and belief that the government is actually going to look out for us and protect our rights. And I totally get it. And that's why I was so furious when Justin Trudeau did what he did. That's why the protests were so persistent. That's why I've always said that he is the worst prime minister in Canadian history, because what he did was wrong, and it was a mistake, a huge mistake, because it was an assault on the people. But more than that, it was an assault on what Canada is. But we can't lose sight of the fact that Trudeau can go. Trudeau is going. And government can change. The Constitution can change. We can make changes to the Constitution to protect our rights in the future. It's not easy, but it can be, should be done. And that can be done through the political process. And people telling you that there is no political solution are lying to you. Because the truth is, everything is political, even the non-political solutions. And if it's a non-political solution, then that's violence. And the violence itself is a political solution. It's just politics through another means. Blood and bombs. Bombs and blood. And we don't want to get there. The truth of the matter is, we've already litigated all of these questions in the past. And we came up with answers. It's just that as time goes on and people forget their history, because generation upon generation, things fade, and they shouldn't, but they do, because we haven't been told what our history is. And worse than that, when people invoke historical revisionism, it confuses people. And worse than that, when they want to tear it all down by lying to you, lie, and confuse, then we're very vulnerable. And we're in that place right now because we came through some, the most prosperous time in human history anywhere in the world. And so we got complacent. And I've said for a long time, we took it for granted. That's why when the government did what they did to us during the pandemic, we let it happen. We were soft. We didn't realize what we had, and we let them pull it away out of fear. Our fear, collectively as a society, imposed on the government, demanding that the government do something, and when they did it, we got upset because the government did what the majority of people, in part of a democratic process in that way, actually demanded that they do. People were demanding the coercion, if you remember correctly. People are like saying, yes, please lock us all down. We're petrified. We're going to die. And so the government did. But if you also remember and think back, as much as I was incensed by this, and I was more upset with the people than I was with the government, to be quite frank with you. Because why? Because we had an election that Justin Trudeau called, and he let the people decide. And that election was fought on the issue of primarily, in my view, especially if you're looking at it through the lens of the PPC or the Conservative side, freedom. Some people were opposed to the mandates, the lockdowns, the coercive measures. But not everybody. The majority of the people at the time, because of the fear, were demanding the lockdowns. And the government responded. And then the election was held, and that was the wedge issue, and the people voted, and they voted for more of it at the time. Now, when it's passed, the danger is in their people's minds. It's gone. They're very judgmental, right? It's in hindsight is 2020, or sort of through lenses of fog. And so you blame Trudeau. We all blame Trudeau. We blame the government, and rightly so, because even though people were demanding it, they never should have proceeded with things in the manner in which they did, because it was an assault on freedom, an assault on our Constitution, and it's now undermined trust in all of our institutions and our government itself because a mistake was made. And some would say, they planned it all. Well, maybe they did. But the system is still the thing that we have to protect us. And our system here in Canada predates, because of our ties to the Commonwealth, to a time much earlier than the creation of the United States itself. Well, Canada's Constitution is only 150 years old. Confederation was only just over 150 years ago here in Canada. Our history, because of our linkages back to the UK, goes back much further than that. And the First Nations that are here within this landmass, if you want to call it, known as Canada, the First Nations have a history much deeper and much longer than even ours. Mine, the UK history here, the European settler history here. But that's what I mean when I say that we're presented with a couple of paths. 3 paths, really. Some sort of more independent version of Canada, or even versions of Canada, decoupled from the monarchy, but still independent, or absorbed by the United States, or option 3, more integration with the European Union, and a strengthened, maybe even renewed and more resilient tie, or at least a continuing tie to the monarchy, which in this case, we may actually need to ensure that we are not invaded by Donald Trump. Because even today, if Donald Trump confronts Canada or tries to absorb us against our will in any fashion, as being part, because we are still part of the Commonwealth, that's an assault on the United Kingdom. That could pop off World War III too. So if you think for 1 minute that just being friendlier with Russia is the answer to preventing World War III, think again. The United States is the most powerful Godzilla on Earth, but there are other super monsters too. It's just that it's going to take time. I'm worried, really worried. I don't want war. I want peace. But in order to get there, in order to have a lasting peace, you need freedom. And you can't have freedom unless you have truth. And we have to cut through this information crap, cut through the information warfare. We need to make sure we are dealing in truth and not allow people to manipulate us, warp our sense of reality with lies so that we make bad choices that may cost us literally everything, our freedom. The people promising us freedom may actually be the ones planning to take it away. We have to find a way to get it back, preserve it, and make sure we make the right choices. And hopefully, our right to choose remains intact so that it's not imposed upon us. Freedom is what it's all about. I love you guys. Stay strong. I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. on the flip side.
Well, I heard old Cosmo howling last night up on the hill where the moon shines so bright. He was singing a tune, lonesome dogs cry about freedom and running and touching the sky. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. Cosmo's got them paws that just itch to roam. He's chasing his dreams, he's far from home. With a heart full of love and a spirit so free, he's living his life wild and carefree. If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me? Cosmo's free, running wild, wild as the wind can be. He's a free dog, he's a free dog, he's a free dog. He's got the stars in his eyes, the wind in his fur, a tail that wags like it's never heard of the blur. Cosmo's on a journey, he's got no chains, he's running through
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.